Al-Qaeda as a central organization and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb develop new strategies for the day after the Tunisian revolution and the Libyan revolution. They definitely wanted to take advantage of the chaos, of the situations, of the upcoming changes. And I believe they found a formula that they also tried in Yemen and Egypt, but it's not the purpose of our question, which was let's say a rebranding strategy from calling themselves Al-Qaeda في المغرب الإسلامي or Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. They tried to rebrand themselves and pretend not to appear as directly linked to Al-Qaeda through a new name, a new strategy, which was through Ansar Sharia in Libya or in Tunisia, which pretty much started with a very soft approach to the new changes, to the new objectives of the population through a very clear da'ah or proselytism approach, going through a Hezbollah approach while creating an armed branch in the mountains of Tunisia and in several cities in Libya, which, by the way, in the end it ended up split into different groups and finally even feeding the Islamic State growing presence in 2015-16. And that was basically that is basically the main fact. In Tunisia, for example, while proselytizing in big cities and organizing under this new umbrella, they had the opportunity to attract many attention, both international and national, while at the same time quietly they were able to build an armed faction of the group more closely linked to Algerian Hakim leaders and sources through the western Tunisian-Libyan border, Tunisian-Algerian border. And as a result, we started seeing an armed conflict, which grew slowly, till the days we are now, which fortunately, both in Libya and Tunisia, and Saudi Sharia doesn't exist anymore, both countries. And those armed factions that grew under their shadow, very closely linked, have a lower presence. Of course, Al-Qaeda is very strong and present in several parts of the Libyan geography. In Tunisia, the action carried by the security forces of the state, have really diminished their power. And till today, that's true. Both are active, but they're, at least in Tunisia, less powerful, and trying to reorganize in Libya, in the southern western part, mostly in some places in the center north. Security situation in Tunisia has improved. We should start by saying that public perception has changed a lot since 2011. At the beginning, it was Tunisian people were, if I may say, in the denial. Salafism and Salafi jihadism was spreading. That's sure, has been proved. Whereas leaders, not only from Nahda, many people tend to focus on Islamists, but also from other groups, were trying to diminish the real presence of the idea of a radical version of Islam. They were denying the presence of armed groups being trained in the western mountains and Shambi and whatever, etc., etc. Unfortunately, the situation developed into two very well known by the broad public, two very big terrorist attacks, and I think that's the time when both the international community and the Tunisian politicians became aware of the difficulty of the situations. Now these days, 2016, 2017, the situation has improved slightly. There's less terrorist attacks, mostly focus on security forces. Of course, tourism decreased dramatically 2015 and 16, and it's starting to rebound slowly. But the situation has improved definitely, of course, through international cooperation. Everybody knows France, the United States, Germany, Spain are training or cooperating with security forces or policy making, etc., etc. And we'll see. Well, definitely, after Beji Qaid Sibsi presidents, we'll have to choose somebody else. We'll see how the new government in a couple, 3 years deals with the situation and how the situation also evolves, because we know Tunisia have two, let's say, uncomfortable neighbors: unstable Libya and Algeria, which, nobody really knows what can happen in the near future, politically speaking. Well, the deradicalization process that the Libyan Islamic group underwent is a complex one. I believe it started in 2004 or 5, where the first approaches between the group's leaders that were in prison and Saif al-Islam Gaddafi took place. Of course, this happened. This deradicalization process, sorry, cannot be named precisely like that, because, of course, the strong influence exerted by the state was perceived as such by the prisoners. So, these corrective studies that they published, this deradicalization book, of course, took place, or its writing took place under coercion. Prisoners had, of course, the objective of getting out of jail, etc., etc. So we cannot really say that a de-radicalization process took place like we perceive it. By the way, in these corrective studies, several very important issues in the jihadi, let's say, corpus of thinking do not weren't introduced, like takfir and nullifiers of takfir. Basically, I can remember also that a question of al-hakimiyya, let's say governance, is a very precise term, is not tackled as well. And al-wala wal-bara, which is also a concept closely linked to Salafism and jihadism explicitly, are not mentioned in the book. And of course, after the revolution, we can see that two branches emerge. We have leaders like Abdul Hakim Bilhaj and so on and so forth. And they're very important leaders, went into doing politics, whether others like Sufyan bin Gumu or Azawi or Nasr al-Aqara, etc., joined newly formed Salafi jihadi groups. Some of they still active till today.